Hi, everyone. It's Mitch here with Steve Monahan and the Puck Dogs, Chris Ruffalo, Rod Zawacki, in no particular order. But of course, still no sports. But the early college football lines are out. We were talking about them yesterday, and what we decided to do is just do a show dedicated to those. We're also going to do a write-up article at the site. Of course, the guys who do most of the writing at the site don't know about that yet, but I'll shoot out an email today. And we'll get those picks up as soon as possible. But I think that early season lines generally just looking for content, looking to keep interest in it. I mean, we haven't even had the NFL draft yet. You know, there's no spring practice, obviously. That's going to affect things. It's going to affect things because you have the early enrollee period of the recruits, because recruits now. When guys are recruited, they enroll in January, and they're ready to go for the season. But this is going to set all that back. So the teams that generally rely on a lot of these freshmen that come in right out of the bat probably not going to get the contributions that they're accustomed to getting. And we're talking about the top teams, the Georgias, the Alabamas of the world. These are the teams, Ohio State, these are the teams that really have taken advantage of this early enrollee period, because they're getting those top-of-the-line recruits that can contribute right away. And I'm not saying there's not going to be freshmen that contribute right away, but all I'm saying is that before there was this early enrollee thing going on, you didn't see nearly as many freshmen contributing at this level that you see them today, especially at the skill positions, especially I would say across the board. You didn't see a lot of freshman starters at quarterback. You didn't see a lot of freshman starters or guys that really contributed at really any position. You didn't see a ton of it, and you've seen a lot more of it in recent years, and a lot of it has to do with the guys being able to sign early and enroll in January and start to do it. So I guess they are enrolled, but most schools are shut down. Most schools, the students have left the campus. Elvis has left the building. I mean, these are scary times. But regardless, we're going to have college football this fall. Who knows what it's going to be, right? I mean, where we're going to be in that amount of months, I can't predict it. But we don't have any real news about anything going on. But always fun to talk college football. Of course, Sports Chat Place, my first site, started as the College Football Place. It was my first website. It was cfbplace.com. College Football Place. I only talked about college football. So you want to talk about a real core group of people that hated my guts, that's where I found them. Right there. College football. As I always say, NFL fans are great, but college football fans are a different breed. They live, sleep, die. I think that's why some of the other websites miss the mark on college football and college sports in general. Why we always hit the mark on college sports, and I've always hit the mark on it. I know that I've gotten emails from day one, emails, everything from college football fans of every team just about out there in the nation, whether they agree with me or not. At least they know I'm in the club. It's like I don't just sit out here and roll out some guys with an Australian accent or something, or some guys from Germany. And I'm not saying there's not college football fans in Germany or any of these other places. I'm just saying I grew up in an environment where we lived and died with our team every Saturday, and we knew if we lost a game, our season was essentially over. And when I was growing up watching it, our team lost a lot of games, and believe me. The Barry Switzer, we're going to hang a half 100 on him by halftime, happened on our local news station. It's like Barry Switzer, when he got off the plane to play the Hurricanes on Saturday, they asked him how he thought the game was going to go. He said, we're going to hang a half 100 on him by halftime, and then I'm going to put the scrubs in. And it's pretty much what he did. But I am in that group of college football fans where it's like, that is my game. That's what people ask me, what's your favorite sport? It's always college football or boxing. I always say those two are my two favorites. probably more of a lean to college football because though I grew up with both sports. Back when I was a kid, boxing was on TV all the time. All the big fights were on TV. And, we had Friday night fights. Muhammad Ali would fight on Friday night fights. It was rare, like the Joe Frazier, Thrilla, and Manila, where they had a closed circuit. It was rare. Most of the big fights were on TV. It was Friday night, Saturday afternoons on, CBS Sports Spectacular and ABC Wild World of Sports. They always had fights. NBC less into boxing back then. But it was
ABC, you had a lot of boxing.
Yeah, ABC and CBS Sports Spectacular. Boom Boom Mancini was always fighting on CBS, and Bobby Chacon fought Bazooka Limon 73 times on CBS Sports Spectacular. I mean, I can't even tell you the great fights that used to be on. Roberto Duran fought Esteban De Jesus on ABC Wide World of Sports. I mean, it was like a knockdown, drag-out fight,
One of the best fights on ABC, I remember specifically, was Ken Norton and Larry Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, that was a war for 15 freaking rounds, man. It was great.
Jimmy Young against George Foreman, the night that George Foreman saw God and quit boxing. Was another one that was on Friday Night Fights. Jimmy Young versus Muhammad Ali was on Friday Night Fights. Leon Spinks Muhammad Ali was on Friday Night Fights. I mean, this was Howard Cosell was the guy, that did it. And Howard Cosell's last fight he ever covered, Randall Tex Cobb versus Larry Holmes, was on Friday Night Fights as well. It's kind of the end of an era when he just said. He really kind of laid into the referees on that one. Stuff that is probably pretty mainstream today. Stuff that, believe me, the stuff that we say about referees is worse than that on this show. But Larry Holmes was just pasting Randall Tex Cobb, and they just would not stop the fight. And Howard Cosell was just like, I'm not ever covering this sport ever again. He never did.
No, we didn't.
But we got college football lines, and I was just, kind of got off topic there, but that's okay. We got time. That's the thing we got. But, college football, I started, Sports Chat Place was originally called College Football Place, CFBplace.com, and that's all I covered. And like I said, fan bases from all across the country. I used to be on the LSU show. Weekly, every week, I had a weekly spot on the LSU show, talking college football. This is like 2007, 2008. This is how much the other fan bases. I had to fire a writer once because he called Auburn the Auburn University, and he also wrote that Nick Fairley was Chris Farley, and the Auburn fans wrote me a really long letter and had all of these guys sign it. And say, how coming from my site, it hurt even more than it would normally would hurt. And, but I think it's because the college football fan is just a different breed. And I know there are other college football fans. I know there are. I understand it, but the college football fans that are the diehards, the diehards. There's no office pool, well, there's an office pool to pick college football games, but there's not it's not like a, you go to, Alabama and the fans are like Yankee fans or something. It doesn't work that way. It's either you're Auburn or you're Alabama, and that's it, It's like where I grew up, Miami, Florida, or Florida State, and that's it. There's no Michigan State fans. There's no Ohio State fans. Maybe you get people that move there from somewhere else and whatever. Those people got killed. They got killed. Back when I was drinking, this is why I don't drink anymore. One of the many reasons, but there was a guy, a Florida State fan, chopping at a Virginia Tech game against Miami. I threw my beer at him. The guy was huge. And then Steroid Man was sitting behind me, and the guy's like pointing at me. He's the one that threw it. He's the one that threw it. Steroid Man stands up behind me, says, "I threw it," because this goes up, He's like, "How dare you chop? It's not even a Florida State game." It's like, it was rough. He's wearing, that was back in the home record days of the Hurricanes. It was like, this ain't no dream team. This is your worst nightmare. And it's like, the Orange Bowl was not a fun place for visitors. The 58-game home winning streak, I'm telling you, there was a lot of 58-game home tailgating winning streaks that went along with that. And I'll tell you, the party posse was out in full force back in the day. But that is college football, and I'm excited, anytime to always talk college football. But let's just get into a couple games, and then we'll come back and just talk general college football as well. Because I could talk college football. Most people know this. I could talk college football all day. And it's like, I've seen live many of the greatest games ever played, and I've also seen live, whether they had Miami or not, because I've also been to the Orange Bowl game a million times, growing up. The Johnny Rodgers game, the Raheem Ismail game against Colorado. I was at all these games. So, anyways, let's get into it. I'm probably boring the crap out of you guys, but I don't care. I'm excited about it. But let's see what we got. So we started yesterday with Notre Dame and Navy, and this game is scheduled to be in Dublin on August 29th. It's Saturday, and this would be opening weekend of the season. We know that Navy's probably going to have a new quarterback, which is always a problem with that option offense. And Notre Dame, the last time they played in Dublin, they kind of opened up the can on Navy. Steve, any thoughts here? I know you're big on Notre Dame. This is kind of like, I think people that, this is another thing about college football, and it's like you have to take it and leave it, and it is what it is. And those of us that are kind of grew up in where college football is front and center, more important than pro football for sure, way bigger than pro football. We always consider Notre Dame the team for people that love college football, but live in a place where they don't have the teams right there, like where you go to the games like, every Saturday and sit there and, 120 degrees and, watch Penn State run over you. But, Steve, what do you think of this one? Notre Dame and Navy, I know these are your teams. Monahan, I'm going to guess that there's some Irish in you. Just take a wild guess there.
I think Notre Dame will handily beat Navy. Like you said, Navy had a great quarterback last year, and they'll have a new one. Notre Dame, big, powerful offensive line. I have no problem taking Notre Dame here in Dublin. I think they cover. Navy obviously has beat Notre Dame a couple times in recent memory. I think the streak, even before that first victory, was 25 or 30 years in a row. Notre Dame beat them. But I just think Notre Dame will cover this, no problem.
Yeah, Kevin Buckley has an interesting comment here, which I strongly disagree with, so I'm going to post it up here. He says, I've heard that delay in practice for the schools are going to even the playing field. I believe Clemson and Alabama just separate even more due to those players. No, you're wrong. You're way wrong. Because college football playbooks have become almost NFL playbooks at these day and age. Bill Belichick, I don't know if anyone saw the Bill Belichick, Nick Saban's thing on ESPN, where Belichick basically says, I steal plays from him. And it's like, I don't even double check anything. He's like, if it worked for him, I'm going to use it. And it's like, believe me, these are not high school playbooks. I know high school playbooks have probably gone up a level too, but they're not even close to this stuff that they're running at Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and any place, I'd say any of the top 120 schools. I mean, I would say the offense they're running at Coastal Carolina is more complex, than it's ever been before, So I can't agree with that. I don't think it has much to do with raw talent. If it came down to raw talent, I think that a lot of you wouldn't see the same order of finish that you would see every year that you see now. I know these teams get the best recruits, but how many of these recruits fizzle out, and how many? We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but that prep time is everything, especially with quarterbacks and wide receivers, where the receiver's number one, running a pattern. And I know we all grew up with this, but it is not that easy, because you look at some of these guys and it's like you hear like this guy can't run this route, this guy can't run this route. It's like it looks simple on a piece of paper, but it's not that simple on the field. And the timing with a quarterback to get that ball out there with that specific receiver, once again, not so easy. Even a guy like Ruggs, right, flies, right? I mean, he's one of the fastest guys I've ever seen, and just happened to be on a team of fast wide receivers. Being able to connect with that guy and not underthrow him must be almost impossible. You got to throw it way out there, and it's like, man, do I really throw it that far out there? It's like to be able to trust that is something that you need to build by repetition. It doesn't just happen. Anyways, Rod, any opinion here? Notre Dame, Navy?
Yeah, I would go with Notre Dame here too. I think they
Chris?
They should win by more than 14 anyways.
Yeah, it's a big number to give up to a Navy team that has an offense that can chew up clock, but it's like Steve said, Notre Dame's got that big offensive line, and I'm looking at the spring roster for Notre Dame right now. They've got Ian Book coming back after throwing 34 touchdowns last year. Chase Claypool's back after leading the receivers. Tony Jones Jr.'s back in the backfield. They're just bringing back more talent than Navy is right now. So yeah, I'd lay the points with Notre Dame as well.
Got it. I'm gonna probably bet on Navy in that game, and I'm probably gonna lose. That's what's gonna happen. Obviously, not going to be a premium pick. We got BYU and Utah. BYU plus 5.5 at Utah in the Holy War. We went over this one yesterday. I'm going to guess, and it's like, one thing that you can kind of always make the assumption on in some of these type of games. Some of these teams, it's traditional system. So BYU and Utah, we're going to see, some old quarterbacks, older than some of the starters in the NFL in this game usually. BYU is going to wheel out some 27-year-old sophomore. And it's like, Utah is going to have some guys that have some mileage on them as well. And, but one thing that we know about this game, it's always these teams hate each other's guts. I mean, this is what college football is all about. This is the Holy War. Steve, what do you think of this one? Definitely, they moved it up in the season, a few years ago, I think in the Taysom Hill era at BYU, which he did cover. Of course, they ran it in from, it was like there was no way he was not going to run the ball in from the 6-yard line. It's like over his dead body is he not going to run the ball in the Holy War. But what do you think here?
BYU, I think was good early last year and kind of faded out a little bit. And Utah, again, Kyle Whittingham, the coach there, they were a top 10 team, if not a top 5 at some point. I got to go with Utah, especially being home. I know they hate each other's guts. I would go with Utah winning by a touchdown here. I think they got more horses. So I'll go Utah.
Rod?
Yeah, I would go Utah too. They this past year they beat them 30-19, and that was in BYU. Yeah, that line's actually moved. You can get it down as low as -4.5 now in a different book.
How about you, Chris?
It opened it.
Yeah, I'm on Utah as well. And I just think they have more skill players than BYU does. I know BYU's bringing back their quarterback and they're bringing back a big chunk of their roster, but I just think Utah's the better team.
I like BYU in this one. It's early in the season. They just have a massive offensive line. I think you keep the ball controlled, and I think you shorten the game. The one thing you always have to worry about with BYU is a boatload of penalties. But I do like BYU in this one. I think that this is one of those games. It's the Holy War. You throw the record book out, and I think these two teams are competitive enough think Utah loses a lot from the team that they had this past year. USC and Alabama, this line at 2 touchdowns for the Crimson Tide. I've seen it higher, I've seen it lower, but 2 touchdowns seems about right. These teams have played, a few times recently. It hasn't been close, but it played, I think, in that kickoff classic game. It wasn't really a close game, but I think that, USC, what we saw last year is they got a ton of quarterbacks. Clay Helton's got on this team. I mean, a ton. Alabama, we saw, Mac Jones was able to move the Tide up and down the field. But we started to see, I think, the first traces, and it's possible that it's the first traces of it, where Alabama is not quite the Alabama that they were. We see this. We see this happen all the time. I know people are going to disagree with me because we haven't seen it in a while. But eventually, what starts to happen is when these players start to leave early and leave early and leave early and leave early. You can hang on and recruit and reload all you want. Your depth gets eaten up alive, and that's what's going to happen to Alabama. I think we started to see it. We saw it a little bit in the I pointed it out in the Deshaun Watson game against Alabama, where he drugged them up and down the field, and it was hands on hips for the fourth quarter. Then, because they didn't have anyone to sub in, then the next year Georgia ran him up and down the field, and it was Tua to the rescue. And then the next year, Clemson really unloaded on him, in the championship game. And then last year, LSU beat them in what turned into an exciting game, even though LSU was ahead the whole way. But then Alabama never backed down at the end. So Alabama's always with Nick Saban there, they're going to have the talent. They're going to have, the guys are going to be in the right places. It's just a matter of, if they have the guns to hang in there all the way against the best teams. They're going to beat the Mississippi States. They're going to beat them. They're going to beat, some of these other teams too. But when you don't have the depth, I'm diehard Miami Hurricane fan, and every time we've had our programs gone into regression, and I mean it's been a while since we've been good. I'll admit it, but was 3 years ago we were ranked number 4 with the week left to go in the season, so we're ranked 3rd in the nation with a week left to go in the season, but. We weren't quite there, and we're not quite. When we've lost it in the past is when we've lost our depth, and it's always comes down to that because not only is it on the field where your guys are sucking wind, which we saw in the Dennis Erickson, Nebraska Miami game where Warren Sapp was kind of sucking wind at the end of that game. We've seen it in practice in other areas. It starts to leak over. You're not practicing against the quality that you were. It's one thing when Frank Gore is the your 4th string running back. It's another thing when he's your starter and you got nothing else behind him. So you start to look at things like that. And you look at Alabama's running back depth that they've had throughout the years, wide receivers. When that starts to go away, that's when you start to see problems. I guess it remains to be seen what happens there, but I like USC in this one. I think that a lot of people won't be looking at the Trojans, and this reminds me kind of the Notre Dame USC game a few years ago where USC backdoored them. I know it's at Tuscaloosa, so don't even think about leaving early.
I looked into that. It's at AT&T Stadium.
Oh, is it? So feel free to leave early if you so choose. Tell Nick Saban. Changing the channel.
Change the channel.
Tell Nick Saban, I dare you to come and take my TV set. I dare you. Take those oatmeal pies and show you how it's done. Any thoughts here, Rod?
Alabama. Who's going to start for Alabama's quarterback?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones or Bryce Young?
Or Bryce could Young. Be. Who knows? With Nick Saban, right?
Bryce Young. I don't know.
With no practice, you got to figure it's going to be Mac Jones.
That's what you figure, but could surprise you. I'll take Alabama at the minus 13. They can win by 2 touchdowns.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna go on USC as well. I mean, we've seen USC. JT Daniels went down early last season. What happened? It was the next guy up. Keaton Slovis stepped in and threw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. They can keep this one.
They have some great talent. The one thing we have to remember about USC and the thing to watch here is when they've had the really great USC teams in the past, they've always had a killer offensive line. So it's like if they have the killer offensive line, they win. If they don't, they don't. It's very simple with USC. It's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of rust, a neutral site. I think USC covers this one.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree with Chris and you. I think USC has talent. Like your point is, and I think now with the neutral site, I think Alabama wins the game, but I think USC covers here.
We got Michigan taking on Washington. A really disappointing season last year for Chris Peterson at Washington. Enough that he is no longer the head coach there, which is nuts. Because this guy, I mean, how much money did we win on him at Boise? I mean, my God. I mean, let's just say when Chris Peterson, at Boise, I was living in Chicago, and then I was living in Hawaii. So, we used to talk about Chris Peterson at Boise all the time back at the old site at Sports Chat Place as well. When we had our original college football chats, Peterson would be wearing the blue shirt, and we'd say, Chris Peterson's got his ass-kicking shirt on today. And it's like, I love the way Chris Peterson played, but I think watching Jacob Eason play quarterback was enough to make any of us not want to watch football anymore. It was just pitiful. I know there's going to be a really disappointed NFL team out there that drafts him, but this guy, there's a reason why he was the starter at Georgia, and there was a reason why that he never came back, that he got Wally pipped. He just throws the ball too damn hard. Anyways, I think that Washington is still loaded, and I think we got it. Is this neutral site as well? I'm going to guess it is because it's that same day. Washington always plays in that neutral site game early in the season too. They played Auburn.
No, it's at Husky Stadium.
Oh, it is at Husky Stadium. Washington all day, every day. No chance for Michigan. Zero. Chance just left the building. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to, I said yesterday Michigan will have a new quarterback. The fact that they're going to Washington, I'll take Washington here. It's as simple as that for me. I mean, we're not going to over-analyze it.
I'll take Washington, too. Who's going to be Michigan's quarterback? Either Dylan McCaffrey or Joe Milton.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's injury prone. He's been injured the last 2 years.
Yep, that's true.
So.
Yeah, I'm on Washington as well. I'm also going to, when the total comes out, I'm going to look at the under because I think that's going to be a low scoring game.
It's a good chance of an under there. I'm with you on that one. Ohio State, Oregon. We talked about this one yesterday as well. The Ducks getting 7.5 points is what I'm seeing at home. That is a lot of points in Autzen Stadium. Ohio State loses a ton. They have Justin Fields returning as quarterback. Ohio State's going to be Ohio State. They're going to have top of the line recruits. They're going to go into other people's backyard and cherry pick. Some great talent, and in the trenches as well. We saw them lose a really disappointing loss to Clemson in the playoffs. And I'm going to guess most people have them circled to return with Fields as the starter. But the Ducks also just missed the playoffs as well. A bad late season loss was their undoing. I don't know. Anyone think the Buckeyes can step on a duck here? I'm going to take Oregon here. I like them at home.
I'll take Ohio State. Minus, late touchdown at the end. This first game of the year is always a bad.
Yeah, I'm on Ohio State as well. I just think that Ohio State bringing back Justin Fields. I just don't know what Oregon's going to do without Justin Herbert. I know they're probably going to bring in a guy who's probably going to sling it all over the field, but I still think Ohio State's just the better team. They're going to win it on the outside.
I'll tell you what they're going to do is they're going to have a spirited defense because they have a spirited coach, and they're going to be way jacked for this game, and they're going to have top level recruits like they recruited. They got some of the top recruits in the nation. They're stacked, and they're being way underestimated. And Outson, another nasty building, nasty. It's like. This is not like, it's not the biggest stadium in the country, but this is not like a cakewalk stadium. This is like not. It's not like, oh man, we only have to go to out. It's not like they're playing the Duke or something. This is. You ever see like the UAB games on like Thursday night? There's like 7 people there. It's like it's not quite that situation. It's a small stadium. It is a tough building. Steve, what do you think?
I'm going Ohio State.
Guys are wrong.
And the reason is Ohio State's going to be, one of the top 3 teams in the nation. And to, the guy's point, new quarterback at Oregon, I'm factoring in it's a tough venue on the road. But I see Ohio State, being undefeated come playoff time.
You're going to see guys that ran that. You're going to see a team that has 7 guys that can run that Etienne play that split the Ohio defense like a peanut. This is what you're going to see, and you're going to see it all day.
Ohio State against Clemson they held their own.
Yeah, until they said, if we just give this guy the ball, he can beat them by himself. And that's basically what happened. I think Oregon's got a team of those guys.
I understand that. But I think Ohio State is loaded year after year. And with Fields back, I'll take that. I think they can win by 10 points on the road.
Clemson, Louisville. Trevor Lawrence is back for the Tigers. Oh, man. I mean, does Louisville have a chance? They certainly started to look better at the end of last season. I mean, obviously they're going to look better than when they played Alabama early. 23.5 points at Death Valley.
I'll take a shot with Louisville and the points. I like the way Malik Cunningham looked at the end of the season. They bring back Shatarius Atwell, receiver. I just think it's a case of too many points. I think Clemson probably wins it by 3 touchdowns, but I think Louisville sneaks in the back door at the end.
How about you, Steve?
Chris makes a valid point. It's, if I'm not going to take Clemson, it's because it's too many points. However, Lawrence is back, Etienne's back, and Clemson is Clemson. And in that Valley, they're not the national champs anymore. I'm actually going to go with Louisville too. I don't think, like Chris said, Clemson should win by 3 touchdowns. Clemson early last year, didn't get the machine really rolling until mid-season where they started really, really crushing people. They had that tight game in North Carolina early, that went to overtime. So I'll go with Louisville here, and Clemson wins, but doesn't cover.
All right, move on. I think that game is 23.5 point spread is always tough to work with. LSU, Texas. LSU, of course, Joe Burrow, gone. Texas, it's time for Herman. Either you put up or shut up, He's been shut up plenty. Any thoughts here, Rod?
Another one where who's going to be the starting quarterback for LSU? Uh, I'd take LSU here at the minus 5.5 points. I think
Steve, any thoughts?
LSU.
Chris?
I'll take a shot with Texas.
I
like Sam Ehlinger.
I don't like Sam Ehlinger, but I'm with you on Texas. This is one of those games that I think it's like LSU went into Texas last year and kind of messed them up, and I think that this is like one of those games where probably the world is on LSU, and we're probably going to get a cover here. You know, it probably comes right down to the end, more like a Les Miles type game than anything else. You know, like where it's just some kind of weird stuff at the end, and LSU might pull out the win, or Texas might pull out a close win. I think this game's going to be close. We're very, very close. Alabama, Georgia. It's at Tuscaloosa. I was talking yesterday. The last time that these two teams met that I remember outside of the national championship game, and in the SEC championship game, the last time I remember the meeting in the regular season was one of the first blackout games I ever remember, and that was at Georgia, and that was like in Saban, one of his first years at Alabama. They went in there and absolutely wrecked Georgia. It was like 30-0 at halftime. I think that it's the pupil against the student, the student against the teacher, the Kirby Smart, and Georgia probably has been out recruiting Alabama in recent years. They have been. They have been. They've been out recruiting everybody. There's so many players, they don't even know where to put them all. I don't know. What do you guys think? Chris? Alabama, Georgia.
I'm seeing it at 7.5 right now. With that hook, I'm going to take Georgia. I just think it's a battle. I could see it being a 4-point game, being something like 24-20 or 28-24.
We've seen now under Kirby Smart. One thing I'll say with you on that one and that hook as well is that we've seen the Georgia teams hang in there against everybody. We've seen them hang against everyone. That national championship game against Alabama, they got them to overtime. I mean, they were led most of the way. They lost it in overtime, but most people didn't even have them doing that. We saw them against LSU. The game got the final score. I believe that Georgia missed recovering the onside kick. Right? They had a chance at it and they missed it.
Yeah.
They had the ball and it went out of bounds. They recovered there. They got a shot to get the game to overtime. The Georgia teams have hung in there. I'm not a big Kirby Smart fan. I think he acts like an idiot sometimes on the sideline. I don't understand the gesturing, but I'm not from the coaching gesturing. I'm from the you would never see Chuck Noll, Tom Landry, or Don Shula gesture like this guy does. But the kids seem to like it. So I don't know. Steve, what do you think of Kirby Smart in Georgia?
I'm actually a little bit surprised that it's 7.5 point spread here. I think I'm going to go with Georgia here.
Well, Fromm is gone at Georgia, and that's going to affect the early lines until we see.
I got it.
Until we see.
I got it. Close game, but I'll take a flyer on Georgia here.
Rod?
Yeah, I would take Georgia in the 7.5 too.
All right, we're probably just going to go through half the games this week, and then we'll go through half next Saturday. Which we're going a little slower than I thought, but that's okay. It's fine. I'm fine with it. I don't care. Wisconsin, Michigan. Michigan minus 3.5 here against the Badgers. It seems that when the game's at Michigan, that Michigan seems to play a little bit better. It's got to be do or die for Jim Harbaugh here at Michigan. I've been calling him out for years, but usually I'm ahead of the curve on this stuff. And I think I've been ahead of the curve on Harbaugh all the way here. But I think now what happens is everyone else starts to catch on. So we either have a tremendous betting opportunity on Michigan this year, which is rare, or Jim Harbaugh is not going to be coaching at Michigan next season. And believe me, they lose this game here, he will not be at Michigan next season. This is a must-win game. Steve, what are you thinking here? When Wisconsin quarterback troubles, they've had one good quarterback that I can remember, and he was a transfer.
Yeah.
But they're going to run the football. They're going to have a good offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor's not there anymore, and Wisconsin obviously brings the beef on the offensive line.
I mean,
so
they
I'm
said
not
the
sure.
same thing when Melvin Gordon left.
Yeah, right, it's true.
They said,
I'm sure. Listen, I'm sure a stud running back is chomping at the
they
bit.
said it when James White left. They said it when Monty Ball left. Ron Dane left. I mean, Wisconsin's going to have a good running back and a good offensive line and a lousy quarterback. I mean, pretty much how it goes. And one receiver that can catch everything.
Right. So therefore, the game is at Michigan.
They pretty much, we know what Wisconsin's going to be. And a linebacker, like a middle linebacker that makes like 75% of all the tackles.
Yep. But being that the game's at Michigan, I'll take Michigan to cover 3.5 points. I think Harbaugh at the end of the year will lose to Ohio State to go 0-6, and I think that will be the end of the Jim Harbaugh era. That's what I think.
I like Wisconsin all day in this one, especially with that hook. Rod?
Yeah, I like Wisconsin too. I'm hoping Wisconsin plays their freshman quarterback instead of Cohen. They get rid of that guy. Their Mertz is their freshman, and he's got more upside potential for this offense on Wisconsin than Cohen. But I don't know if they'll start Cohen because he is the senior, but I think at some point in the year you're going to see Mertz take over for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think, one thing we also have to remember here is that Paul Chryst is another one of those coaches that will make some head-scratching decisions out there on the sidelines. Chris?
Yeah, you said it was do or die for Jim Harbaugh. I'm going die as much as the next person. I think this is it. I think Wisconsin wins this game outright. I think this is the nail in the coffin for Jim Harbaugh. I think we need the 3.5 points, but I'll take them to be safe.
Well, here's an interesting matchup. Cincinnati +6 at Nebraska. Scott Frost in his third year now with the Huskers. The expectations have got to be much higher than they've been. Much higher. And meanwhile, Cincinnati, Luke Fickell, this guy just keeps winning.
Yep.
Cincinnati, outside of pretty much one coaching regime in recent memory, these guys have been the breeding ground for big-time program head coaches. I'm going to guess that this could be Luke Fickell's last year at Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati in this one on the money line, +188.
No.
Steve?
No, I'm with you on Cincinnati. I think Fickell's a good coach. Cincinnati was good last year. Nebraska, they're not Nebraska of old. I guess this is Scott Frost will be going into his third year, I think. And I just, it's an unknown for me with Nebraska. I'll take Cincinnati here until we see Nebraska live during the season and can gauge, any improvement. But I'll go with Cincinnati too.
Yeah, I would take Cincinnati in the points. Give me the point. That's too many.
All right, we'll do a couple more. We'll do maybe 2 more games, and then we'll save the rest for next week. We got, let's see, USC and Utah. So back to 2 teams that we've already talked about. We're into mid-October, so this makes it really tough. Well, early October. So by then, we're going to know.
Yeah. I like USC in this one. I still really like their depth offensively, and I think that's going to be a bit of a shootout in that game. So I'll take USC even on the road.
Here's a question: how much time does Dan Mullen have left in Florida? Most people know I'm anti-Mullen. Steve, big on Mullen.
Take Mullen go. As long as he wants.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he gets 2 more cracks at Georgia, and that's it. You can't lose to Georgia at Florida on a regular basis. It's unacceptable. You can't lose to them.
He just came back to Florida. They had inherited the talent that was there.
Yeah, all Americans across the board. High school All-Americans across the board. Actually, if you look at Florida's recruiting this year, it's way worse than it's been.
Yeah, but you have to factor in, tailoring your roster with the recruits that you want. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying that when Manny Diaz is eating your lunch and recruiting, you got some issues. Baylor, Oklahoma. Obviously, Baylor, new coach. Steve was way down on Baylor last year. Kind of ate his words as the season went on. Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley, somehow still there. Probably has Mike McCarthy to thank, or the Oklahoma fans probably have Mike McCarthy to thank for that. But I think Baylor kind of turned a little bit of a corner last year. And we've seen them have these rise to their programs. This is the second time in my lifetime that we've seen really good Baylor teams. Any thoughts here, Steve? These are a little hard to project because we're talking October, and a team with a lot of uncertainty there in Baylor. Oklahoma, I mean, I don't know who their new quarterback's going to be, but my guess is he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma obviously is powerful on offense as they are. Their defense was Swiss cheese last year, even up till the playoff game, and I think it's a high-scoring game. So I think I would go with Baylor here.
Chris?
Yeah, I think I'm on Baylor for now until we see sort of what Oklahoma starts doing in the early going.
I'm on Oklahoma in this one.
Yeah, I would take Oklahoma too. It's only minus 13.5. Yeah, I think they can win by 2 points.
Yeah, I think at home especially. But, Oklahoma's fault fly with us. We'll do one more game. Wisconsin, Notre Dame. I like the idea of this game. And, but anyways, this comment we got in here from the from the crowd. Obviously, we got to see. That's what I love about college football. Is you always get the real college football fans in here, and this is what I've heard the same thing. So we will see. In Lincoln Riley's system, if you can make Jalen Hurts look like that, this guy could be the guy. Another Heisman winner in the line. Because I've heard similar, but sometimes
Spencer Rattler.
Sometimes they don't.
They don't run it. The Oklahoma's 2 quarterbacks they don't run like Hurts does. You're going to get more to
That's a good thing. That's the thing. That's a good thing.
So, but they both can pass the deep ball, and they're definitely going to open up.
But that's the Lincoln Riley game. Is more that passing. It's like the reason why Hurts was able to run is because the defense has to spread apart like crazy to cover these wide receivers. But I think, last year we heard talk about Oklahoma's offense that all it is it's a glorified wishbone. And I think there is some truth to that. Yeah. But anyways, let's get back to this Wisconsin Notre Dame. We'll wrap it up on this one. this is going to be a smash mouth game, but I do think that I do like Wisconsin in this one at home, Camp Randall.
What's that? It's at Lambeau.
It's at Lambeau Field, so still I like him. I like it at Lambeau, even just the same. I know there'll be a large Notre Dame contingent at this game. Is it considered a Notre Dame home game or Wisconsin home game?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I would think Wisconsin.
It's not, but these aren't always the case. You know, it's not always the case. Like last year, Miami played Florida at a neutral site, and it was a Florida home game, which was rare for them to give up a home game. Just like Wisconsin, it's rare because I think the Notre Dame fans will be at this one. It's not that it matters. I don't consider the Notre Dame fans like. When you think of the tough buildings and the tough college football fans, I don't consider the Notre Dame fans in that group. They're not. The tough fans are the Florida fans, the Alabama fans, the Auburn fans, even more so. These are the tough places. Alton Stadium. I mean, these are just the places you don't want to go. Oh. Oregon State, even when they're bad at Corvallis, tough building. These are the places that Doak Campbell Stadium. Another tough building. Between the hedges in Georgia. Traditionally a tough place to play, but also a place where they kind of they don't always play at the top of their game too. But Death Valley, both Death Valleys. Both tough buildings. Say these days, while they played for the national championship, both Death Valley teams played for the national championship last year. But I don't consider Notre Dame to be one of those places, and I don't consider their fan base to be those type of fans, like the Kentucky basketball fans, right? It's like you don't want to play Kentucky in a neutral site, right? You don't want to play them at Rupp Arena. You don't want to play them in a neutral site because it's going to be bad, right? It's going to be real bad. So, I don't know. I just think that Wisconsin absolutely destroys them. I think they run right over them.
I'm going Wisconsin, even though I'm a Notre Dame guy. But I'll
Brian Kelly teams are soft. They're just soft. Yeah. This could be the end of his run at Notre Dame too. He's been there a while. Coaches generally don't last all that long. There's not too many Joe Paternos out there these days, where you just see the same coach at the same school for a very long time like that. Just don't see it. And you could see, I could see him, seeing that next level challenge. And I was kind of surprised, he wasn't mentioned for the Giants job this past year. Because that's a logical fit. Rod? Wisconsin, Notre Dame.
Give me Wisconsin here.
Chris?
In Lambeau.
Chris, what's going to be if we happen to go to that game? Maybe we'll do some game trips this year. What will be the first thing you order there? Is it going to be the cheese curds, or are you going to go maybe just with the straight bratwurst? I mean, this is like the things in Wisconsin, right? You got the cheese, right, and then you got Uzinger's sausages, right? Is the two big things here. Is it going to be cheese or the sausage, or is it going to be a cheesy sausage, or is it just straight cheese curds?
Put the cheese curds on the sausage, like double up.
God, man, it's like I don't drink, but man, I don't eat red meat, but I could certainly go for the sausage and a beer. Just if I'm at that game, I think that's just almost seems mandatory. It's like they take your ticket, they hand you the sausage and the beer, right?
Free giveaway. Who needs a T-shirt? Here's a sausage.
Here's a sausage instead.
I will tell you, the one time I was at Camp Randall, I'd never, and I like I said, I haven't drank in a long time and for good reason, but the one time I was at Camp Randall, I'd never seen drinking like that in my entire life. My favorite shirt that I saw at the day, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm just from Wisconsin. And I'm telling you, it was. I went to a tailgate party that, I mean, it was anyone was welcome, and it was like it was better than like any club you have ever been to. Like the bar, just everything, and beer, like it was like just lined up. Just help yourself. It was crazy. I went actually with Wade from Doc Sports. That's who I went to. I went to see Wisconsin Northwestern. His family has great tickets. 50-yard line. On the Badger side. But anyways, we're going to wrap up today's show on that note. Next week, we'll finish the second half of the schedule. I'll be back tomorrow with these guys. Well, we're going to probably talk betting strategy. Maybe we'll talk, I don't know. We'll figure it out tonight what we're going to talk about. I have also, just heads up, we're going to have some rugby coverage at the website. So actually, long before this stuff happened, I had people contact me about Aussie rules football and rugby, and it kind of gone back and forth over the last few months. So it's like now is the time. So we are going to start covering that starting this week. It's not going to be just in passing the way we do everything. If we cover it now, we're always going to cover it. Same thing with horse racing. And that will, in addition to regular horse racing coverage, we'll have horse racing as part of our premium area when things resume as well. So excited. So, yeah, we're going to make it. Have a great day, everyone. See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
Can't find the button to turn this crap off. Where is it? Oh, I see. It's hidden behind there. Oh, by the way, yesterday after I said how great golf I was playing, once again, the front nine, I shot 41. I shot 79 on the round, but in the front nine, it was like, why did I say that, man? Why did I say that? It's like the fifth hole, I hit my drive. I mean, I crushed it. I mean, I absolutely crushed it. I could hear it hit the stone wall, like out on the left. I heard the ball hit. I hit the ball so hard. I heard it hit the stone wall that's on the left, and it kicked all the way across the fairway. I was behind a tree, and then, of course, I tried to go over the tree. I hit a branch. It went straight down. It was like, why did I say that? I mean, I scrambled for a 79, a few birdies on the back, but I'm telling you, it was like I was regretting saying it. So, played like crap. I'm playing horrible golf. I'm going to go try and string it together today. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.